Well, hello again, everybody. This is John Norris at Trading Perspectives. As always, we have our good friends Sam Clement and Courtney Trush. Y'all say hello.
How's it going?
Hey, John.
Hey, guys. You know, with all the news surrounding the midterm elections and everything that's going on with inflation and war in Ukraine, just about everywhere you go, kind of hovering underneath the radar screen or what have you, is the fact that it seems like there are a lot of layoffs going on out there. And this despite, last week the government said the economy created, 263,000 net new jobs. Also said that there are about 10.7, or was it back over 11 million net jobs available out there. Even so, I'm just going to rattle off some names. Today, I think Meta, Facebook, if you will, announced 11,000 job cuts. Salesforce on Monday. Literally hundreds of people got pink slips out in San Francisco. Redfin, you might not be familiar with them, but they laid off 13% of their workforce recently. Stipe did 14%. Twitter, as we all well know, is laying off people right and left thanks to Elon Musk. They've already shed some 3,700, about 50% of its workforce. Lyft is laying off people. Apple is in a hiring freeze. Amazon has done a pause in corporate hiring. All of this stuff going on, a lot of it in the tech sector. So it's kind of confusing. We're seeing all these high-profile layoffs, and yet the government says there are so many jobs out there. What's the real story, Sam?
Well, I think the real story is a lot of this has been building for the better part of a decade. It's this spend, focus on growth over profitability, and that's made sense for 10 years. When you're in a zero interest rate environment, that has people take more risk, has companies take more risk, focus on growth, less on profitability, all that stuff that those low interest rates aside. And then we're now kind of flipping the coin and getting to a point where it's like, okay, rates are higher, profitability matters, making money now matters. And so you're seeing the flip. All those companies you listed are kind of in growthy spaces, companies that have been really focusing on growing. Meta is obviously a big one. Redfin's one in the housing space, mortgages, house flipping, all that stuff. These are all areas that have been the biggest benefactors of a zero interest rate environment, extremely low interest rate environment. Yeah. And now we're just kind of getting the flip side of that coin.
And I thought it was interesting. Mark Zuckerberg took a lot of the blame, which, I think is...
He should,
but it also shows good leadership, in my opinion. But that somebody would just say, this is my poor forecasting. And basically he said, we beefed up staff for projected growth. It did not happen. Thus we have to realign our staffing. When you talk about Twitter,
okay,
and you said 3,700 people were let go, and that's 50% of the workforce.
That's right.
I had no idea how many employees were actually employed by Meta.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Did y'all know? If you were just thinking, do you already know the numbers?
No, I don't.
Okay, so what would you just ballpark think? When you think of Meta, would you think of how many employees they...
75,000.
Really? That high? I guess I was thinking 20,000. Sam, what about you?
I'd say 100.
100,000 people. Well, they have 87,314 people, roughly.
Then why are you acting all weird when I say 75,000? That's a pretty doggone good guess. What are you doing here?
I was off by 13,000.
Yeah, you make me feel like I'm a fool.
No, I was saying, I can't believe that y'all think that they would have had that many. I was thinking it was 20,000 people.
Maybe we should say we can't think, we're surprised you would think they'd have that little.
Yeah, you could. But I guess, I was thinking...
We might just need to hit pause here.
Yeah.
Things getting very contentious.
Well, to your point, they're now a lot closer to 75,000 employees.
As a matter of fact, they are.
You're on the screws now.
But you went over.
I did.
The Price is Right. I would have won the showcase.
Yeah.
Yes, and I thought also, in the New York Times article that broke down everything that had happened in Meta and how many people they let go, why they let them go. They also talked about the benefits that they had. And I know we've probably touched on this in the past, but some of the benefits that they are cutting along with these jobs are free laundry service, free laundry service,
okay.
Dry cleaning, similar. And then they also provided free dinners to their employees, but I think they kind of alluded to the fact that employees were maybe using the dinners not only for themselves, but also getting dinner for their family before they left for the day.
I'll take the family-sized tetrazzini. Please.
Right, exactly.
Very hungry.
That's if you have 87,000 employees and you're providing that, that's quite a lot of cost in the benefits.
Well, and it's just been this again. I mean, this has been something that's built for a decade. I mean, all of these companies have been in pure growth mode. I mean, grow at any cost, and they're competing with each other in a growth at any cost environment. And so that's why you start seeing these things like free meals, I mean, free laundry services, free dry cleaning, and there's a whole host of others that you're seeing, and it's because they were all competing in the same growth at any cost environment, and it's something that has undoubtedly been building for a long, long time.
And the thing is, it's growth at any cost, but also in a finite pool.
Yeah.
I mean, truthfully, because they're going after corporate advertising dollars. I mean, there are other things that they do, but that's a huge chunk of what they're doing. And for a while, businesses are going, okay, we've kind of get away from traditional radio, television, print ads, all that stuff. So they just throw in all kinds of money at social media, Meta, others. And now all of a sudden, there's only so much more they can throw at it. Mm-hmm. Part of an overall marketing campaign does have social media as part of it, but it still has radio, still has television, still has a little print ad. And so I would imagine Zuckerberg and others kept on building out, thinking that those growth rates that they had were a little bit more permanent than they actually were.
And I think it also is an indictment of timing. That's something I think specifically to Meta. I think a lot of them have had those issues, but the amount of spending that they've done towards the metaverse, I mean, even shifting the name of their company towards that, Oculus, the amount of money they're spending there. I mean, it's something that, maybe they will be right, but they're not right now, and timing's important. And the timing outside of even that small microcosm is important. I mean, what's going on in the macro environment right now? Companies who are spending money, burning cash, are being punished. That's probably rightfully so in an environment like this. And so timing matters.
And you talked about, most of the people that you provided numbers, having the hiring freezes and all of that, are in the tech industry. Yes. We know in banking right now, we are actively looking for employees, our associates, as we call them here at Oak Ridge.
I was about to correct you.
Yes, thank you. Just want to make sure that we're following our terminology. But I guess my question is, do you think that one of the two areas of Meta that they said were probably more affected were in recruiting and in the business teams? To me, those positions, not knowing what those individuals are doing, probably is pretty transferable to the current open jobs right now among many industries. People obviously need associates, so they need recruiters, and business is pretty transferable.
Well, I think beyond just the sector, I think you're seeing it too in the size of some of these companies. I mean, you mentioned banking, and I think the size of banks matters too. I mean, the money center banks are kind of feeling a lot of these same pains that these large cap tech companies are. I mean, they've talked about getting rid of some of the benefits, whether it's even things as free coffee at some of them.
Yeah.
So it is something that growth at any cost, I think, is something that is more prevalent in tech, but it's something that I think all companies were experiencing, and especially those large ones when you're fighting over an even smaller pool, I guess. It starts to become a bigger issue. The smaller the company is, the easier it is to probably gain some market share in some smaller areas. But once you're a money center bank, or once you're Apple, or one of these other FANG companies, it starts to become you're fighting fewer and fewer other companies.
It just seems like it's two different mindsets going on at the same time. And I know, Sam, you don't remember 2008 in the workforce, but at that time, you were just so thankful to get a job, to even get an interview, because everyone had freezes. Nobody was hiring, or you were thankful for the job that you had, and didn't expect a raise or big bonus at the end of the year because you were just thankful that you didn't get laid off. So it's like coming from that mindset, thinking, okay, well, that might be how people currently employed at Twitter or Facebook or Meta or any of the others that John mentioned feel. But then there's also this flip side, which we've experienced from the consumer standpoint of, whether it's going to a restaurant or even, seeing all of the open jobs, it really has been at the benefit of the associate or the employee, because they could leverage, okay, well, I could go over here and get paid $20,000 more, so you need to match it or I'm leaving. Or, you go to a restaurant and you get mediocre service at best, but you're just thankful that there's a warm body that allows the restaurant to stay open. And so it just seems like very different mindsets going on. And I guess part of me is thinking, oh my gosh, it's
coming.
Yeah. Is it coming? Is it going to be like that again?
It's coming, Courtney.
It's coming for you.
The dog days are over. The horses are coming for you. I mean, you're right about that. I would say what the difference is maybe that to sort of that low end server at the restaurant relative to some of these higher paid tech people. I mean, the tech industry just really assumed that the good times are here to stay.
Right.
And just good time. They did it in the late 1990s as well, and they're doing it again. In terms of finding servers, that's just, I think certain restaurants are just competing with really the gig economy. People, why go work at the restaurant when I can go work for myself? And that is a bee in Courtney's bonnet. Bad service at restaurants. She brings it up quite a bit. I mean,
almost daily.
Yeah, well, maybe not quite daily, but
3 times a week.
several times a week.
Yeah.
About the poor service that you get at restaurants. Tell us.
Or
about
do
that.
we want to talk about the fact that it's already really expensive to even go eat lunch, and then you go up to a counter and you say, this is what I want. They put it in a computer. They literally either hand it to you or just bring it to your table.
And then they spin it around.
And they want you to give a
20,
tip.
25 or 30%.
Yeah, it used to be like 10, 15, 20. Now I see 25, even 30 at times. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, why would I tip you for literally walking my food? You didn't prepare my food.
Screwed
Well, I'm just saying, like, that.
So how do you feel about that?
Be
It's
honest
just,
with us, Courtney.
Yeah,
it's
tell
very
us.
expensive to be able to eat out.
I mean, especially when you've got a husband that probably wants to have a couple beers, and you got 4 kids.
Oh, I'm not even including that. I'm just saying for myself to go to lunch. It's like, man, you got to pack your lunch.
The thing is, I mean, let's assume this. I mean, we're talking about layoffs and all that stuff, and yet Courtney can't find someone. Let's take it to Moe's Southwest Grill. Courtney goes in, welcome to Moe's, if they even say it. They don't do it all the time anymore.
Right, yeah.
She goes in there, gets the patty whack or whatever.
I'm not familiar with that
Jelly
one.
bag of
Yeah, whatever.
Donuts or something like that?
Something like that. She gets that. She has to tell them what she wants on it. They're not even telling her.
Right.
So
Next thing
she
you know,
goes,
you're going to be skipping it.
yeah, I mean, without a doubt. Then at the end of it, while they push it forward with all this fattening stuff, lowest common denominator food, and Courtney's guilty about eating anyhow.
Right.
Then all of a sudden at the end of it, she gives a card, and then they have the audacity, after they haven't given you any service, and you've told them exactly what you want, to ask for a tip. If that doesn't get you going, I don't know what will.
It is frustrating. And I will say that I was in the restaurant industry after college. I did wait tables, and I actually had to work for my tips. So that's the thing that bothers me. If you're running to get water, you're refilling drinks, you're getting appetizers, you're making sure that whatever specifications they're requesting are done. I can't deal with the two of you. Like, really? Anyways.
This reminds me, Courtney's diatribe here today reminds me of a song that came out back during the disco days.
Oh, gosh.
A woman by the name of Donna Summers sang a song that goes, she works hard for the money. So hard for the money. So hard for honey. She works hard for the money. So you better
totally
treat her
derailed.
right. You better treat her right.
Well, that was not what I was referring to.
Okay, but going back to the issue at hand, Courtney. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean your past work life besides. I wonder if this is going to impact just sort of the overall mindset within the tech industry. All these announced layoffs, that some of these people really kind of think that they're a little bit better than the rest of us, in some estimation. At least some of the stuff that they read. People at Twitter, after Musk said that, hey, I'm going to come and do this stuff, they got all indignant and what have you. Maybe assuming that perhaps they had a little bit more leverage than they actually did.
And I just think, again...
That's a better way of putting it.
Again, these companies were able to be so lazy with their hiring that there's clearly been countless redundancies.
Yeah.
I mean, just like, hey, let's hire another person to also be over the actual software engineers at, say, Twitter is, I think, one that Elon pointed out, the amount of mid-level managers that were over the software engineers, the ones actually kind of doing the work. And
what was it? Some sort of crazy number.
it was like close to 10-1 or something like that. Just almost hard to wrap your head around.
Sounds like the military.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that's, companies are really having to be honest, and I think we saw some hesitation to let people go. I think all of these companies pretty much talked about, moving pieces around first and trying to do that without laying people off. And I think that's natural. Nobody wants to come out and say they're letting thousands, tens of thousands of people go.
No, I mean, 11,000 people, while it's, still maybe only 15% of
That's 11,000 people.
That's 11,000 people. 11,000 people that are getting Courtney the pink slip right before the holidays.
And also right at a time where, this isn't a Meta unique thing. It's not a Redfin unique thing. I mean,
or a Stipe unique thing.
No, none of these are that unique situations. So you think about the expertise or what have you that people have in these fields. They're, it's not like, say, one bank's going under and the other banks are fine and you can go get a job at another one. Yeah. I mean, this is kind of across the entire universe of these companies. So I think that's what makes it extra tough.
Yeah, and John, to your point about them letting people go right before the holiday season.
But I mean, which has to put another bee in your pocket.
Right, and I think but what's interesting is that they actually are providing, and I think now companies can't just, screw people over by not, not just like saying, here's your pink slip, like, good luck. I mean,
they actually can. I feel like you see a lot of that.
Well, they can, but I feel like that's such poor publicity. I mean, I think that they were very tactical in the way that they came out with the job layoffs, making sure, like, Mark Zuckerberg was taking...
he's being a martyr.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, I mean, I think it's important that you treat your employees as good as possible, knowing that they might come back someday. And so they're providing 16 weeks of paid leave, or I guess, what's it called, severance. Mm-hmm. And then if for every year that you've been with the company, they're providing an additional 2 weeks, which I wonder is kind of also what's playing into the job freezes until March of next year, because they'll still be paying employees that are no longer there.
Well, you're right about that. But if you really think about that, Courtney, here people are. Right before the holidays.
Well, if anything, it's pretty nice. They're not having to work, and they get 4 months paid, and they can find another job.
Signing a nice little covenant not to sue and an NDA as well.
And then all of a sudden, at the end of those 14, 16 weeks...
they'll easily be employed with all the open jobs.
I mean, maybe,
probably not at the level they were.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're firing these people, it's pretty obvious that you weren't getting your money's worth out of them.
That's right.
And so that you were paying them way above what they were providing in value. And,
But is that their fault, or maybe there was just the fact that they thought there would be growth?
Both. And, I mean, if they can't do the job, I mean, I'm sorry, but that's somewhat partially on you.
Well, and that's also the issue sometimes when you lay people off. They assume that they're worth whatever their final salary was, not understanding that the seat in which they occupied actually had the value. They were just filling it, and if they got fired, that means that they weren't providing the value that the employer had for the seat itself. So these people will be coming off, let's say they make $125,000 at Meta or whatever, coming out, they think that they should be able to command $125,000. And that's just the mindset. And what they'll find is there are not going to be all that many jobs out there paying them what they were previously making.
It's not a one-way street.
It is. To the bottom.
To the bottom, yep. I like it.
Maybe not all the time.
I don't think Courtney likes that, though.
No, I mean, Courtney works hard. She works hard for her money, and as she always says.
I don't know how this just got railroaded so much against my favor.
She's been having to scrape and save, and ever since she was working hard to get tips, and what'd you say, you were getting waters?
Nope, I'm done, John. I'm not saying anything else.
Getting appetizers. One last question before we go here today. Where were you a server?
Bria's.
Oh, really? That's a pretty nice restaurant.
It is a nice restaurant.
All right. Anything else that you want to say about this? I mean, Sam.
No, I just think it's something that is not necessarily going away. Just like we saw 10 years of the opposite. It's not. People were talking about whether we're in a recession right now or whether it'll be next year. I mean, we all know we're going to have one at some point.
That's just part of the economic cycle.
But that is not what I think is causing this necessarily.
I think
it's
you're
not
right
a short-term recessionary slowdown. It's okay. We had 10 years.
Got way out over our skis.
10 years of do whatever we can to grow. Don't look at how much money we're losing in areas, and that is not going to change, even coming out of a recession.
Yeah.
And that's part of why you think
I think that's all of why we're seeing
Meta's
this.
stock is down 70% this year.
Well, it's up after the announcement here today. I think it's up like a ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Sam's gonna pull up the number right here. Sam, drum roll, please.
It's up almost 8%.
Up almost 8%.
Whoa.
Hey, huh? What do you think about that, Courtney? What do you think about that? All right.
It's still net under, or has dropped more than 50%.
You're on fire
that
today.
quick math in my head.
You're on fire here today. All right, guys. Thank y'all so much for listening. We always love to hear from you all. So if you have any comments or questions, please, by all means, let us know. You can always drop us a line at tradingperspectives@oakworth.com, or you can leave us a review on the podcast outlet of your choice. As always, if you're interested in reading more or hearing more of what we have to say or how we think, you can always go to oakworth.com and take a look underneath the Thought Leadership tab for all kinds of exciting information. With that, we'll give you guys one last chance to say something insightful about this topic.
That's all I got.
That's it, John.
That's all I've got today, too. Y'all take care.